welcome back to Block TV, time for Cryptonomics. Now, one cannot read a newspaper or switch on a television set these days without hearing about Brexit. The long, painful, not very successful divorce of the United Kingdom from the European Union, or should we say, as they're still trying to detach themselves. Now, of course, there is a crypto angle to the story. According to data collected by Syndicator, a market intelligence firm, at least 62% of analysts polled believe that the upcoming Brexit, if in case it happens, will have a positive impact on the market for digital assets and cryptocurrencies. 74% of all surveyed parties are considering cryptocurrencies as an addition to their portfolio. And to help us make sense of the findings, we're joined in studio by Block TV's analyst, Asha Westrop-Evans. Hello to you.
Yeah.
Well, first of all, before we delve into is Brexit good or bad for cryptos, let's remind people where Brexit now stands or doesn't.
Well, exactly right, yeah. It doesn't exactly stand right now. Rather, it shakes violently from side to side amid ongoing chaos. But the practical reality is, last Friday, Theresa May lost her third meaningful vote, as it's been called, the third attempt she had to try and push through this plan she's been negotiating for the last several years. Right. Unsuccessful, lost by 58 votes. So still a pretty significant margin. Doesn't look like that one's getting through.
And this is after she actually promised to resign if they only passed the vote.
Even with that teaser, even with that little thing on the line, it still couldn't bait enough people in.
Quite heartbreaking.
So now, should nothing go ahead, should there be no meaningful action taken by the UK, they're set to just tumble out of the EU with no deal come April 12th, only a few weeks away. Not many people happy about that. If they do manage to get some sort of deal, the EU has said they'll hold off on Brexit until May 22nd.
Which is also around the corner in many ways.
Also very much around the corner, and so there seem to be a lot of options on the table, still a lot of possibilities, but no one really moving forward.
And not only that, the UK, in Britain nowadays, they basically, they're all in agreement that they do not want to leave without a deal, which is also going to be incredibly hard to do. At the end of the day, they are financially tied to the continent.
Certainly.
But, it's heading that way. Let's say they leave without a deal. First of all, some numbers for us, I think you wanted to show us, right?
So, now this brings in Syndicator's report. Now, Syndicator just released this new report, and we can take a look at some of the numbers coming out of this regarding people's views on what this will mean for the crypto sphere. Of course, we're going to bring it back to that. So 62.3% of analysts predict that it will have a positive impact on the crypto sphere, as many financial crises in the past have, and around 18.5% believe it'll be either negative or neutral effect each number respectively.
63% is a high number. I'm wondering with you if that's not, I don't want to say hype, but at the end of the day, people are banking on the fact that the sterling is going to actually, lose value, and they're going to look for other options.
Well, certainly right, but they've got good reason to think that, Yael. During the period since Brexit was initially passed back in 2016, the British pound has lost 5% against the dollar and 10% against the euro. That's a pretty staggering statistic, and it takes a massive hit every single time there's this sort of chaos or a decision isn't able to go through. The pound takes a hit, and some are feeling that it could go down to as low as $1.08 against the US dollar should they tumble out of the EU without a deal. That's pretty staggering statistics given where the pound used to be.
What was the lowest it ever hit?
So
the sterling,
Yeah, back in 1985, it reached those similar numbers back during the peak of some pretty shaky financial times as well. It's going to be a struggling time for the pound. And so why does this mean it's good for crypto? Because we've seen in the past, we've seen this happen in Portugal, in Spain, in Greece, during their European financial crisis that we had back earlier in the decade. People turn to cryptos, people turn to these safe haven investments. They turn to start looking at Bitcoin as a potential safe haven place, a place to keep your money securely.
Seeing as the old haven is falling apart.
Exactly. Yeah. And whereas once it was gold or US dollars that were seen as the pure safe haven investments, now people are recognizing the potential in Bitcoin, the potential in cryptocurrencies as a whole, as an easy access point, and even a place to potentially store your money safely and move it around between different areas without having to deal with the sort of difficulties and complexities of gold or buying in and out of US dollars at times when that can also be incredibly volatile.
Wondering with you though, Britain itself is not that regulated for cryptos, is it, at this point in time?
No, at this point it's still, Britain, it's a bulwark of the establishment. It's definitely not, a leading sort of progressive in this field, but the people may be willing to turn away from that themselves, and particularly as the big investment firms move away from Britain, perhaps we might see that even more. And we can even take a look at how that's going to be playing out.
Sure.
Syndicator as well looked at these statistics. They looked at where asset managers and banks are planning to move in the future as
That's fascinating.
the instability in the UK continues. So we see that Dublin, a massive sort of site for the asset managers, whereas banks are favouring Frankfurt and Germany as more established.
That was one of the interesting points. I'm just wondering with you, because when Brexit all began, and we have to remind viewers that it's been 2 years since the actual referendum that has proven to be so hard to carry out, but that Frankfurt/Germany might become the next, financial hub of Europe, right?
Exactly right. It may become the financial hub, and more importantly, as Britain moves away from the establishment, breaks its ties from the continent. Again, we're assuming this all goes ahead, but as this sort of potential happens, then there's scope for destabilization. There's scope for market disruptors to come into the UK, but there is still a lot of money being held, even if it's being generally moved towards the continent, and start using that disruptive capability to start bringing in space for a bit of crypto. So we might see a lot of change in regulation in a very destabilized UK amongst perhaps other chaos.
Perhaps amongst other chaos, and interesting to watch. As you mentioned, the next date that they decide on, or the date that the EU can actually just say bye-bye, is
April 12th.
April 12th.
Just around the corner. It's going to be
it's going to be fascinating. It's going to be fascinating. Cryptos, watch out. This could be the golden age. We'll see. Asha, I want to thank you so much for this overview of what has become the debacle that is Brexit. Also, wondering with you out there as you check us out, Block TV online, is Brexit good or bad for cryptos? Chime in, send us your opinion, and we do answer. That was it for us for now, and we will be right back.